So they're sending letters now, and they're trying to get him fearful, if you will. They try to slander him and create maybe questions about him. They say in verse 6, it is reported. Did y'all see that? It is reported. You know, a national survey. A CNN poll says. Right? Y'all know how this goes. A Gallup poll revealed. Or, a bunch of people told me. It is reported. And what are they saying about him? They're saying he's a dictator. He's a control freak. He's a tyrant. He just wants to be king. They've said it about any pastor that preaches with authority. Because they want you to think that he's out for himself. And if there's anybody not out for himself, it'd be this guy who could have stayed in the palace. But took that long trek to Jerusalem and went through all kinds of turmoil in order to be where he's at. The last thing he wants is to be king. But they use slander against him to try to take him down. First it's a snare, and here it's slander. And Nehemiah says in verse 8, to look at it, then I sent unto him, saying, there are no such things done as thou sayest. Look at it. Well, I'll just go ahead and read it to you and paraphrase it. You made this all up. You see it? Thou feignest them out of thine own heart. You made the whole thing up. For they, verse 9, they all made us afraid, saying, their hands shall be weakened from the work, that it be not done. And then Nehemiah says, now therefore, O God, strengthen my hands. He says, you made this whole thing up. You know what? The enemy can always find a loose tongue. The enemy can always find a loose tongue. And in verse 9, Nehemiah admits they made us afraid. But you know what I like about Nehemiah? He didn't let that fear settle down deep in his heart. He didn't act out of fear. He rose above the fear. It's okay to admit you're fearful. Just don't cave to the fear. It's okay to admit this scares you. But you can do right even if you're scared to do right. You can step out on a limb for God. Fearful. Just don't give in to your fear. The enemy can always find disgruntled church members and jealous brethren to try to attack you. And here, I don't know who this is, but it says in verse 6, it is reported among the heathen, and Gashmu saith it. I don't know who he is. Chairman of deacons, maybe. I don't know who he is. Whoever he is, evidently he carries weight. Did you know if you have influence, the devil would like to use you? If you're a person of prominence, the devil wants to use you. Evidently, Gashmu carries weight. I'll save some time here. I was going to take you to it in Matthew chapter 26. You know what they did? And it's also true in the book of Acts chapter 6. They suborned men to lie. It means they're paying somebody to lie about Jesus. In the book of Acts, they paid somebody to lie about the Apostle Paul. The devil wants to get you to say things to hurt the Nehemiahs of this world. And Nehemiah's not a pastor, he's not a preacher, he's just a Christian. He's a, quote, saved man, Old Testament, that just wants to do something for God. And if you want to do something for God, young or old, mark it down. You're a target. The devil doesn't want you to do that. And then, interestingly, verses 10, 11, and 12, we have the enemy's snare, the enemy's slander, and here we have the enemy's sermon. Remember, it's set up there in verse 7, thou hast also appointed prophets to preach of thee. That's a lie. Here's the guilty party down in verse 10. Nehemiah says, afterward I came into the house of Shemaiah, the son of Delaiah, the son of Mehetabel, who was shut up, quarantined, or in a building, or in a house. And he said, look what he says, this is Shemaiah, let us meet together in the house of God. Okay, we won't meet in Ono. We won't get you away from Jerusalem. Let's meet at the temple. Let's meet down at the house of God. Look at it within the temple. And let us shut the doors of the temple, for they will come to slay thee. Yea, in the night will they come to slay thee. And I said, should such a man as I flee, and who is there that being as I am, would go into the temple to save his life? I will not go in. And lo, I perceived that God had not sent him, watch this, but that he pronounced this prophecy against me. For Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. So he's a hireling. See that? He's been hired. He's a hireling preacher. And he's prophesying, saying Nehemiah's going to do this and Nehemiah's going to do that. But Nehemiah says, notice in verse 13, therefore was he hired that I should be afraid, watch this, and do so and sin. What would be the sin? Probably going into the temple when you have no right in the temple. You're not a priest. Probably a part of the temple that was set aside. That's probably what Shemaiah is trying to get him to do. He's probably trying to get him to go in there as a non-priest and do the job of a priest, and it's going to cost him. You don't go into the temple unless you're the right person. So that's probably what's going on. I really can't say for sure. I don't think it's spelled out. I just want to paint a picture for you and give you a devotional application. Here's the devotional application. Let's just hide out at the house of God where it's safe. Let's just keep our religion at the church house. Is everybody getting this? Don't be outspoken. Don't put a bumper sticker on your car. Don't stand on a street corner and hold up a sign, Jesus saves. I mean, you don't have to be obnoxious with your religion. We have to be obnoxious with our sodomy. We have to be obnoxious with our alcohol. We have to be obnoxious with our sin, but you don't have to be obnoxious with your faith. Nehemiah's response is, you can be a closet Christian, you can refuse to do right in public, you can compromise at the family reunion, you can be a Sunday morning Christian, but not me. Because what God's told me to do requires me to get up on a wall in public view. If you'll notice in verse 14, look at verse 14. My God, this is amazing to me. My God, think thou upon Tobiah and Sanballat according to these their works, and on the prophetess Noadiah and the rest of the prophets that would have put me in fear. Nehemiah doesn't spend a lot of time defending himself. He just gives it to God. And you know what I find interesting? It's like he's saying, God, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but just think about what they've done. Y'all see it? He says, think upon Tobiah and Sanballat. God, I wouldn't dare tell you what to do, but just think about it, and you just do whatever you think's best. Did you know sometimes if you'd leave everybody alone and let the Lord take care of it, you'd be a lot better off? Do you know you don't have to react to everything that everybody says about you? Did you know you don't have to talk it to death? Amen. Amen. Verse 15. By the way, this is still introduction. So the wall was finished. Boy, it's a great statement. And it's miraculous. It's finished in the 25th day of the month. How long did it take them? In 52 days. That's a miracle. Everybody will tell you it's a miracle. Verse 16. And it came to pass that when all our enemies heard thereof, they heard that it was finished. All the heathen that were about us saw these things. They were much cast down in their own eyes, for they perceived that this work was wrought of our God. Why? Because they finished it. Nobody thought they could. Nobody thought they would. They thought they could pull them down. They thought they could distract them and discourage them and defeat them. But they stayed by the stuff and they finished it. You know what Jesus said one time? It is finished. You know what Paul the Apostle said? I have finished my course. Nehemiah said the wall is finished. A lot of people start well, but an awful lot never finish. God, give us some people at Cornerstone with some perseverance, some old-fashioned grit, some spiritual tenacity. Cornerstone, I want to say as your pastor, I may stumble and fall. I may make some ugly mistakes. I may get weary in well-doing. I may get in a rut. I may have a few dry seasons. I may go through a cancer spell. I may foul up every now and then, but I want to cross the finish line serving God. I want to finish well. Amy didn't know what I was preaching. She leaned over to me a little while ago and said, Daddy, I'm sure glad you're still here. I can't come down. There's Edith and Mason. I'm back there looking a little while ago where there's up here Willa and Harper and Maddie. Some of you daddies need to understand you can't come down. There's kids watching you. Some of you grandpas need to understand you can't come down. You want to one of these days cross the finish line faithful, even though there may be some bumps in the roads and you may get discouraged. Say one of these days, I have finished my course. But why do you think in verse 15 that they finished the wall? It hinges on verse 3, which is the real text today. Here's what it hinges on after the enemy attacks and slanders and does everything they can. Nehemiah says, I am doing a great work. Watch it, so that I cannot come down. He faces the snares and exercises discernment. He knows it's mischief. He faces the slander and exercises denial. He refuses. He faces the sermon and exercises defiance. I'm not quitting. And I thought this was really interesting in verse 11. I want you to notice what it says at the end of verse 11. I will not go in. I will not. Now you see that? I will not. But now what does verse 3 say? I cannot. Now is there a difference between cannot and will not? We always think there's a difference, and I'm agreeing with you. There is a difference between, well, I can't. If I go in the house and ask Rhonda, can you come outside and help me? And she says, well, I'm talking to Mom, I can't. Well, yeah, you can. Tell your Mama I'm more important than she is. What she means is not right now or I don't want to. She could technically come out and help me. Now I want you to think about this. I can't come down or I won't. I really believe I'm right about this. You need to be so determined to do right that I can't and I won't are the same. Did you hear me? I'll give you the classic example. Now let me say this before I get to the example. You say, I could watch that. I'll say it. I could watch that movie. I might say, I could listen to that song. I could, but I'm not going to. Well, I'm just going to tell you something. Some of you today can invite me to go certain places, do certain things. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to say. I can't. Because my commitment to God tells me I can't. And can't or won't is the same thing when you're serious. Y'all see what I'm telling you? So here's Joseph in the Old Testament. Man, he's been through it. Man, has he been through it. And now Potiphar's wife's after him. Right? You know the story, don't you? You know what he says? He says, how can I? How can I do this great wickedness? Listen, and sin against God. Joseph says, how can I do this and sin against God? Now you could read that story in Genesis and you might think, well, he could have done what she asked. Well, in his mind, he couldn't. Some of you need to get it in your crawl. I just cannot do that to my mama. I cannot do that to my daddy.